Week 4 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking this week. Number 1, the Buffalo Bills. So this Bill team last week on paper, they had a good matchup versus the Dolphins. An offense who was struggling but didn't get anything done. But this week with a great matchup, New Orleans coming to town. I know New Orleans, they put some points on the board the first 2 weeks of the season. And then last week only scored 13 points. But I think Buffalo, they're going to get back to basics in this one. New Orleans, obviously, with Spencer Rattler in their quarterback, they're going to have trouble scoring points consistently, and Matt Milano possibly returns in this game as well. So after a down week last week, I think Buffalo straighten things out in this ball game and have a big performance. Number 2, the Green Bay Packers, so the Dallas Cowboys, now down CeeDee Lamb, down offensive lineman Tyler Booker, and I think Micah Parsons obviously is going to have a chip on his shoulder versus his former team, and he's going to try to get 3-4 sacks in this one if he can at the Dallas Cowboys. And also, regardless of that, besides that extra motivation for Parsons, this defense all season long has been shut down for Green Bay. So this week at the Dallas Cowboys, with 2 major guys out in the starting lineup for them, I think Green Bay goes out there, has a big performance. Number 3, the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos defense, they've been getting torched all season long, especially the last 2 weeks. And last week, Amari and Hampton and that Charger offense had a big ball game. But this week they go to Cincinnati. We saw Cincinnati's offense, just horrible. It was obviously 2 touchdowns they gave up to the Minnesota Viking defense. Browning took a beating, a lot of big hits in that game. They fumbled the football a whole lot as well. But Denver, I think in this one, they got a good opportunity. Monday Night Football, if they could lock down Jamar Chase with Surtain on them for a majority of the game, I think it's going to give them an advantage in this one. And I think this defense bounces back after some bad performances this week. Number 4, the Detroit Lions. So the Lions last week, I know they gave up over 30 points on Monday Night Football, but they got to Lamar Jackson a lot in that game. He took some big hits. Aiden Hutchinson was the catalyst on the defensive line, getting through that O-line. Derrick Henry really didn't do much. Zay Flowers, they shut down. So this week in a matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, arguably the worst offense in pro football, I think Detroit goes out there, they get pressure on Flacco early and often, create a couple turnovers, and they can hold this offense down. Realistically, mid-teens, low 20s. Number 5, the Houston Texans. So a good matchup this week for the Houston Texans. Last week, I thought they played pretty decent versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. But once again, this Texan offense couldn't score the football. But when you got guys like Anderson and Stingley, who's one of the better corners in the league, versus a Tennessee offense with the rookie quarterback Cam Ward and not much around them, with Calvin Ridley, who's having a bad year, Tony Pollard not doing much, and the only bright spot's pretty much been Alec Ayomane, the rookie wide receiver. I think Houston this week back home 0-3. They know they're in a tough spot, obviously. They go out there and put on a good defensive performance. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Chargers traveling cross-country trip to the New York Giants. And the Giants, very young team now. Jackson Dart getting his first NFL career start. Cam Scatterbo, his first career start at the running back position, a rookie as well, with Tyrone Tracy out with the dislocated shoulder. And that's a lot of young guys, and they're bound to make mistakes. That's just how it goes, unfortunately, in the NFL. And we know this Los Angeles Charger unit is a solid defensive unit. So I think in this ball game, they go out there, Los Angeles in New York, and they get pressure on the young rookie Dart. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if he throws a couple interceptions in that one. Number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. So the Vikings last week, they teed off on Jake Browning. They had 2 touchdowns defensively as Minnesota. They created a couple fumbles in that ball game as well. But this week at Pittsburgh, with the veteran quarterback, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's going to take some sacks. He might have a turnover or 2, but he's not obviously going to get embarrassed out there like Jake Browning was last week, especially in an international game in Dublin. I don't see a dominating performance from Minnesota's defense like it was last week, but I still think they go out there, they have a decent ball game, no doubt about it. They could score 10, 12 fantasy points in this one. Number 8, staying in the same game, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Carson Wentz in there, quarterback. We know Carson Wentz, he's a gunslinger. He don't have a problem taking chances down the field, and especially now playing with Justin Jefferson, a big time and one of the better receivers in the league. I think Pittsburgh could take advantage of that, especially when you got arguably the best pass rusher in the league in T.J. Watt, one of the best corners in the league in Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay back there as well. I think Pittsburgh in this one, with Minnesota with their injuries, obviously McCarthy out with Wentz at quarterback and Aaron Jones out, even though I think Jordan Mason is an upgrade for this offense. They go out there as Pittsburgh. They hold them mid-teens, low 20s, get a couple sacks and a few turnovers. Number 9, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders, a good matchup this week at the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix, he was a train wreck in last week's game. versus one of the worst defenses in the league in the Carolina Panthers. They couldn't even put a point on the board. And London and Penix, they're not on the same page. Penix, he's taking big hits, holding on to the football too long the last couple weeks. And I think Washington, obviously led by Dan Quinn, goes out there and takes advantage of that. Number 10, the Seattle Seahawks. So we know Thursday Night Football, usually high-scoring games more times than not. But Seattle, their defense is a solid unit. Defense is playing good, and the offense is putting points on the board. So this week at Arizona, where pretty much this offense is Kyler Murray and Trey McBride, the top two options. Well, Murray with his legs, obviously, and getting the football to McBride. And Marvin Harrison, he's been non-existent for the most part. And now James Conner out for the season. Even though I think Trey McBride's a pretty solid replacement, I think Seattle could go out there, have a top 10 performance. Number 11, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, they're a good unit, obviously. I know they lost a few key players in the offseason. Gardner Johnson, he left in free agency, even though the Texans just cut him loose. Darius Slay gone as well. But now, this week at Tampa Bay, this could be a track meet. Even though Mike Evans is out for this Tampa Bay Buck team, Chris Godwin possibly could return. Emeka Egbuka has been pretty impressive. But this Eagle team, they always find ways to go out there and put points on the board. We saw it last week. They gave up a bunch of points. Still had a good defensive game, including capping off the game with a blocked kick for a touchdown. And this week at Tampa, I still think they go out there, get a couple sacks. And we know Baker Mayfield is a gunslinger quarterback as well, who's going to turn it over at times. And the 12th and final DST I'm ranking is the San Francisco 49ers. So this week, a good matchup. Jacksonville Jaguars coming to town. Their top two receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, they've been non-existent this season for this Jacksonville Jaguar team, not putting up numbers. I know Travis Etienne has been solid out of the backfield. And also we know Nick Bosa, unfortunately, out for the season with the torn ACL. But this San Francisco defense plays way better at home than they do on the road. And I think this week, San Francisco with a good matchup, and Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't looked that great as well, they go out there and they have a top 12 performance. So that's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 4 of the fantasy football season.